Very well, I shall release Barabbas. G'day everyone, Brian here. There is a tradition at Passover time that Pilate, who is the leader of the Romans at that time, would release a prisoner. Why would he do that? Well, maybe to endear himself to the people, maybe to be nice, maybe because he was a top bloke, which he wasn't. Anyway, there's that tradition that he would do that. Jesus has been brought to Pilate by the Jewish council in the hope that he would authorize the crucifixion, the death of Jesus. And so you've got these two things coming together, a tradition that someone would be released and a group of men bringing another to be killed. How do these two connect with each other? Well, interestingly, they connect because there is a group of people who come to Pilate to ask for a prisoner to be released. Now, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm hoping that this is Peter and James and John and the other disciples, and they've got some of their friends together, and they've come to make an appeal to Pilate to say, you have under your guard Jesus of Nazareth, and we would ask that you would set him free, please, as part of your tradition. Thank you. But it doesn't look like it is the disciples who are making this request. Mark says, the crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. And he says, do you want me to release to you the King of the Jews? Now, I don't think anybody else actually called Jesus the King of the Jews at that time. But he knew it was out of envy that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. So what did the chief priests do? Well, they needed to get the crowd on their side, and so they did. They stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. Barabbas? Who is Barabbas? Barabbas is a murderer. Barabbas is a man who has stirred up insurrection and has resulted in the deaths of others. He is a man who is rightly imprisoned for his crimes, so the Bible tells us. And yet, he is to be freed. The question then is, well, what will happen to Jesus? What shall I do then with the one you call King of the Jews? Pilate asked them. And their answer, crucify him. Crucify him. Why? What crime has he committed? Pilate asks. But they just shouted all the louder, crucify him. And because he wanted to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them, had Jesus flogged, and handed him over to be crucified. But the interesting thing is when we read that, we read about ourselves. That I'm like Barabbas, you're like Barabbas, that we deserve punishment for what we have done, the many things we have done. And yet in Jesus, this same Christ who is to be crucified, and from our perspective has been crucified, we find freedom. So we are Barabbas. And we need Jesus to stand in our place so we can be free. Wonderfully, he has. And so we depend not on Pilate anymore. He's dead. Not on the chief priest to stir up the crowd to vote in our favour. It doesn't work. But we depend on Jesus, who lives, to set us free. I hope you can depend on Jesus today. Enjoy a cold day. We'll see what the weather brings tomorrow, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.